Hello and welcome to another episode of Cavell Cloud Conversations, your focused podcast where we dive into the latest in the cloud communications world. We cover UCaaS, we cover CCaaS, we talk about what vendors and service providers need to know about what is happening in the industry with commentary from two expert analysts. I focus on CCaaS, Patrick focuses on UCaaS teams and everything else. How are we doing, Patrick?
Very well, thank you, Finbarr. How are you?
I'm sick, but I'm good. I'm fine. Because in the UK, we say we're fine even if we feel like we're going to cough, and it's fine.
Yeah, well, what I thought I'd do today, as any regular listeners to the podcast will know, normally you do all the prep and I do none. But as you're not slightly under the weather this week, I thought I'd take advantage of that by taking over the podcast and inflicting, in Finbarr style, a quiz that you haven't prepared for.
This is not rehearsed. This is not rehearsed, by the way. Like, no. I have a vague idea of what Patrick is going to talk to me about, but yeah. All right, come on, Patrick, lay it on.
Well, So it's cloud comms related, and the context is for anyone who doesn't know, at Cavell every year we conduct biannual research into the cloud communications markets globally, and we look at those markets in terms of how many business telephony users are there in any market, and then how many of those users are using cloud-based solutions. So how many are using a publicly hosted multi-tenant solution for their PBX functionality. We conduct that research twice a year. And we are in the process of updating our research to cover the first half of 2025. So at the moment, we're surveying and speaking to service providers and telcos all around the world to find out how the first half of 2025 has gone. So while we're collating the data for the first half of 2025, I thought I would go back to the end of 2024, which is the last data set that we have a complete database for, and I would conduct a little quiz looking at the penetration rates of different markets. And I don't know. Go on.
Before we jump into the quiz, right? So you listen to this podcast. You obviously work in our industry, because if you're not, I mean, hi. Welcome to a Cloud Comms focused podcast. But Patrick, why don't we just take a step back for a minute? So let's just talk just for a minute about why we do these numbers, and I think the strategic implications of these numbers. So let's just provide a little bit of context on, like, these numbers are super important to our business and to our industry because
very, very well taken back to an actual rationale, Finbarr, of why we're doing this. Yeah, so I think if we look, so I'll start off before we get into the quiz. So if we look at a market like the United States, there are roughly 85 million business telephony users in the US. So primarily, Cavell's customers have been cloud-based providers who are looking to capture some of the available market. So they want to know what systems people are using, what level of solutions are people using a premises-based, and what is the remaining market that might move to cloud. We don't think any of these markets will ever get to 100% penetrated. As we've discussed previously with CCaaS, we think there'll always be a percentage of the market, maybe around 10% even, that will always want to keep some of their communications workload locally. But this is just, the penetration rate is just one of the data points that we look at in the Cloud Comms reports, as well as market growth rates, how many users are being added in different market segments split by size or vertical. The penetration rate is something that we look at to try and track the maturity of a market in terms of its cloud adoption, how advanced it is globally in terms of penetration of UCaaS or cloud PBX. So that has been of interest to customers globally, either if they're looking at the US market, but often, and a lot of the countries that I've picked here are in Europe, often for US providers looking to move into Europe, what European countries would be interesting to target in terms of opportunity. And those might be vendors that make the software, or they might be US channel providers. And we have the same discussions in contact centers. So it's a really important barometer of where a market is in terms of its sort of cloud adoption journey when we come to communications.
And if you have stumbled here somehow and haven't turned it off, these sorts of numbers are the sort of thing that a business leader looks at to say, yes, you can hire 5 salespeople to try and get some of that percentage of the market in Germany that hasn't been touched yet. Or we have this many users. Cavell says there's this many in the whole market. We have 5% of the market, and I think we should have 15. All of these kind of things they're very useful for actually guiding strategic business decisions. at a country level for some very, very large companies, and our customers have been, some very, very large companies. So if you think these numbers are fun, what do people actually do with them? The answer is make very, very important decisions with this kind of data.
That is a really key point. And as I said, this is just one of the very many data points that we track. And I should say as well, and you're always very, very hot on this, in terms of methodology, at Cavell, we've been collating this data for around a decade now. And the way that we do that is composite. So primarily, we speak to the industry. So we speak to the largest providers in each market. In fact, we speak to a huge range of providers. So in the US, for example, we track over 400 cloud communications providers. And those providers provide us with varying levels of anonymized data of how many users they've got, how many are using cloud, what their growth rates are. We get the same data across. Now we track more than 190 countries globally, but really detailed data across our sort of key markets in North America, Western Europe, and APAC. So that data is provided to us anonymously by providers. We collate that data, we keep it anonymous, and then that feeds into our data models. We also combine that with the enterprise research, Finbarr, that you've led, and when we ask businesses, what percentage of your organization is using cloud, what are your plans for cloud, and all of those data points feed into our wider data model. So that's how we've come at these numbers. It's taken a long time. As I said, the business has been doing this for a decade to get to the levels of penetration and the other data points that we include within the Cloud Comms reports.
Yes, exactly. Very well put. So, to get these numbers firmly stuck in your mind, we are going to play a game. I have no idea, actually, what any of these numbers are. I have no idea how... Let's just be honest. I have no idea how penetrated the cloud comms market is anywhere for that. I'm the UCaaS analyst. Do you want to talk to me about contact centers? I'll tell you what's happening. AI, sure. Voice AI, why not? I'll look into anything. But Patrick's team, they go and they deal with all the UC numbers. So... yeah. I get to be very wrong. Absolutely. Now, I think, Patrick, if we're going to be honest. No, so let's see.
Well, let's see. So as I said, this is not your area of research focus. So I thought to take advantage of Finbarr while he's ill, give him a surprise quiz in an area that he doesn't focus on in terms of research. So the format of the quiz is I will give you the starting penetration rate of a particular market, and then you will have to indicate higher or lower of whether you think the next market has a higher penetration rate or lower penetration rate. You will continue normally the way, I don't know if higher or lower translates globally, but it's a game that we play in the UK. Normally, if you're wrong, you're out. But in this, we're going to continue for the entire way, just to maximize potential humiliation.
Okay.
If you go through all of these and get them right, I quit the podcast because that undoes the idea of humiliation that I was sort of going for with the quiz. So let's start with the largest cloud communications market globally. And that would be the United States. So as I was saying previously, if we look at the total number of business telephony users in the US, there are around 83 million we forecast. That number's falling actually year on year, but around 83 million. Currently, the penetration rates that we've got in our data model, as I said, fed back by industry and cross-referenced with our enterprise research, we've got the US at around 63% penetrated by cloud-based technology. So that means 63% of those 83 million business users are using a publicly hosted multi-tenant PBX solution for their call control in the cloud. So you've got the US, and I'll give you the exact figure. So this is as of Q4 2024. So at the end of last year, we've got the US at 63.6%. I want to know whether, and now we're going into Europe again, Cavell's sort of key focus market areas. We are going into Europe, and I want to know if Portugal has a higher or lower penetration rate than the United States of America when it comes to cloud telephony users. Portugal, higher or lower, Finbarr?
I thought you were going to ask me whether the United States was going up or down this year. No, you want to know if the Portugal is higher
I'm going
or
market
lower?
by market.
All right, let's try and break this down. So we know the US is quite an advanced market in terms of penetration.
There might be some trick questions in here as well.
We know that the European Union in general, as major areas, are laggards in cloud. That seems to be a repeating trend. But Portugal's a bit weird. It's full of like technology communes and sunshine and beaches and stuff. And happiness. They apparently have a lot of happiness in Portugal. I wish they'd share.
I haven't got anything on their happiness rates.
We haven't got anything on their happiness. Yeah, but I think cloud makes
concentration.
people happier, right? There's the takeaway from this podcast.
Well, yeah.
I think genuinely that the Portugal is probably higher penetration than the US.
You are correct.
There we go.
That was an immediate trick question that I'm annoyed that you've managed to bypass that hurdle. Yeah, so Portugal, higher penetration than the US.
Probably a lot less people, though.
You're absolutely right. So in terms of users, that goes from 50 odd million cloud users in the US to only a few million in Portugal because of the number of employees in the market. But it is a very advanced market. You mentioned for a couple of reasons. Portugal, very advanced technologically. The government's made a lot of investment in digital transformation, but it's also about the success that the big providers have had in that market. So Vodafone, Altice, who were formerly Portugal Telecom, the solutions that they've taken to market over the past 10 years were primarily cloud-based for small businesses. And that has led to a much higher penetration rate of cloud in Portugal than you might see in other comparable European markets. So I thought I might manage to stumble you there on the first hurdle, but I've failed. You're absolutely correct.
And I agree for the audience. It would be much more fun if I got these wrong. But I'm stubborn, and I'm gonna go 4-0. I'm gonna go undefeated, right? I don't think Patrick's gonna get me wrong at least once.
Well, there's a couple of tricks.
Sure.
So that's Portugal at 65.9%. So that's as of the end. That's Cavell data as of the end of Q4 2024. And as I said, we'll be adjusting all of these for H1 2025 over the coming month. So next up, let's go higher or lower than Portugal at 65.9. The UK as a market.
Now the UK is, as we say in cricket, a bit of a sticky wicket. Say that 10 times fast.
Yeah, go on.
No, but it is.
That's
because
the quiz.
I know that the UK is an advanced technology market, but I also know that not all of our companies are on that same trajectory. Whereas Portugal is fresher, more innovative. The government's better at spending money, I think, on getting tech initiatives rolled out.
Proportionally, yes, I think that you could argue that, yeah.
So, but then you have just there's been a lot of cloud sold in the UK by people like Gamma and BT, very successfully, for years. Definitely since I joined Cavell. Do you know what? I'm just going to go out there and say I think, based on the size of the population compared to Portugal, that's going to be my anchor point. I think it is potentially lower. Again,
annoyingly, you are correct. The UK has a lower cloud penetration user rate than Portugal at 57.3% as of Q4 2024. And you again, Finbarr, you rightly identified the UK, very advanced market globally. Traditionally, providers coming from the US into the continent of Europe have used the UK as a starting point because of the language synergies before going onto the sort of continent of Europe. So we've had all of the leading cloud providers, RingCentral, Zoom, 8x8 already in the market, obviously very strong for Microsoft. And you're right, so the incumbent provider in terms of BT and also Gamma have had huge success in small and medium enterprise taking cloud solutions to market. So still very advanced at 57.3%, but they're around, and again, the size of the market, still millions of more cloud users than Portugal. There's around about 18-19 million business telephony users in the UK, of which just less than 60% use cloud. So around 11 million cloud users in the UK. So correctly identified. Okay, so I'm ploughing on. So you've got the UK at 57.3% as of Q4 2024. The next country that I would like higher or lower than is the Netherlands. The Netherlands, higher or lower cloud penetration rate than the UK at 57.3%.
But I feel like the Netherlands isn't actually that difficult because, okay, let's review what I know about the Netherlands. Firstly, it's tiny, right? Very small market. Sorry, I shouldn't call your country tiny, but it is a very small market. And I know for a fact
to the US,
that they have rolled out things like fiber optic all over the place, right? And you can get 2 gigabytes to your flat. They're all very switched on. They're all very
Tech
savvy,
Yeah.
but also like smug about it sometimes. Like they know so much and they're very good at it. Kind of like the the Nordics in some ways. They know they're good and they like talking about it. I think that the Netherlands is incredibly penetrated. I think it's very high. I think it's definitely higher than the UK.
Again, you are correct. The Netherlands higher than the UK with 61.3% as of Q4 2024, and you rightly identified a lot of those trends. Regionally, very in terms of square area, much smaller country. Connectivity provision is excellent.
Yes.
Again, the success that the incumbents have had taking to market have been very successful in cloud in terms of, if you look at KPN and what they've done, and that has led to very strong penetration. So it's one of the most advanced markets we see globally at 61.3%. Now, one thing, as Finbarr said, we didn't this quiz in no way rehearsed, and I'm suddenly realizing how long this might take. So we might have to rattle through some of the countries, but I have a feel.
We can enter. We'll enter a quick fire round where I'm not allowed to think about it for more than 5 seconds. Right, you'll say it. I'll give an answer. We'll move on.
I have a feeling. I don't want to stumble you into a step, but I have a feeling you'll fire through a few of these correctly. So you've absolutely identified the top. So next we'll go a country dear to your heart, Finbarr. We'll go Ireland.
Lower. Keep going.
Absolutely correct. Ireland at 43.6%, considerably less.
It's literally fields and cows, and they don't have good internet everywhere.
Yeah, despite English speaking and the presence of US companies, it is considerably lower.
Doesn't matter. The national broadband provision is atrocious, and until they start upping actual good connectivity, the reliance on cloud solutions cannot grow to where it needs to grow in Ireland.
And see, we were supposed to be on a quick fire, and I've got you talking about Irish connectivity provision, which is already,
There we go.
30 seconds. Okay, so Ireland at 43.6%. Next up, we're going Austria.
High. Definitely higher than Ireland. I mean, that's an easy one, right?
For the first time, incorrect. Austria, lower cloud penetration at only 31.5%. And there's a couple of...
They need to get their act together.
Connectivity provision, but Austria, alongside its larger neighbour in the DACH region that we'll maybe come to later on in this quiz, traditionally very conservative about cloud-based solutions, and we haven't seen the success of incumbent providers in the Austrian market in terms of taking those cloud. So Ireland, as you said, problems with connectivity, but generally all of the US providers are in the market because it's English speaking. They've had a lot of success going to market there. So the penetration in Ireland at 43, much higher than in Austria at 31.5.
Wow.
Let's then go. So you're still massively in the positive here. Let's then look at the Benelux counterpart of the Netherlands, Belgium. So we're looking for lower or higher than Austria's 31.5% penetration.
I mean, I was going to say it's an easy higher, but you've got me now. I think it has to be higher, right? Come on.
You are correct. Belgium, not as high as the Netherlands, but at 38.8%. Again, providers like Proximus have had some success in the market taking cloud-based solutions, but you are correct. Higher than Austria. We're getting into the real meat of the quiz now, where my real tricks come out. I'm really trying to play mind games. So we've got Belgium at 38.8%. Next, we're going to move to a market that has often been described to me as multiple countries in one country and particularly difficult to forecast. We're going to look at Italy. So I want to know if Italy's cloud penetration is higher or lower than Belgium's 38.8%.
See, the problem here is that Belgium is quite low. And in the mid ground as well, because I know that Italy isn't going to be that high, but is it higher than Belgium? No. Okay, no. Italy is such a weird country. I'm just going to go with lower. I think it's lower.
You are absolutely correct. Italy considerably lower than Belgium.
It's just broad swathes of the country that don't really do technology very well, and they love fax machines as well. Like, it has to be lower.
Completely right. Italy's such a regionally based market, very advanced in the north, less so in the middle, even less so in the south. Whenever we speak to providers in Italy, there's a very regionally based approach provided. You talked about connectivity in Ireland, that you face the same problems in regional Italy as well in terms of provision. So Italy at just 23.1%, one of the least mature Western European markets that we look at. So from Italy, I want to know, higher or lower than Italy at 23.1%, the country of my birth, Switzerland.
No, Switzerland has to be higher, straight away. They love money, and they love countries.
You are absolutely correct. However, you're right. So very advanced market in terms of financial services, which is obviously one of the key sectors there. Very advanced market. Very advanced market generally in terms of investment, but also Switzerland, with the incumbent provider Swisscom and providers like PeoplePhone and other providers in the market, it was one of the first markets to have fully IP connectivity available in it. So the Swiss were very advanced in that, and that's led to a very high penetration rate. So we had Italy at 23.1, Switzerland at 45% of the overall users using publicly hosted multi-tenant. Even though we talk about financial services being traditionally reticent to cloud-based, Switzerland high at 45% of the users using public hosted cloud. So 45% penetration in Switzerland as of Q4 2024. I want to know, higher or lower, Spain?
Oh, okay. You are making this more difficult now.
I've tried to make it as difficult as possible. I can't lie to the listeners. I really have.
You queued me up with some really easy ones at the start, and now it's like, because I know I think I have an idea of where Spain is, but do I think it's higher or lower than 45%? I mean, that's 5%. What do I think? I think Spain is kind of like Italy. I think if you go to Madrid or Barcelona, the answer is probably yeah. But if you go to the middle of the country, the answer is probably no. I'm going to go with lower, actually.
I'm going to revel in incorrect.
Oh, damn it.
Spain has a higher penetration rate at 52.2%. However, your hypothesis was not wrong at all. So Spain, again, very regionally focused around a Madrid central hub, and then lots of coastal hubs with lots of rural connectivity issues. But the key factor in Spain is the incumbent provider, Telefonica, has an incredibly high market share, and they had huge success with taking bundled cloud and mobile UCaaS solutions to small businesses in Spain, which has led to a very high penetration rate of more than 50% of the market now penetrate. So that was a real trick that I put there, Switzerland into Spain. But yeah, Spain, one of the anomalies along with Portugal in terms of those southern European, southern sort of Mediterranean coast markets that actually have quite high penetration. So from Spain at 52.2%, we're going to go slightly north. It would be a lovely holiday tour. We're going to go across the Pyrenees. Am I right? Into France.
It is the Pyrenees. Yes, I've driven across the Pyrenees. It's very nice.
Suddenly doubted myself then on my European geography. We're going to go. I want to know if France, is higher or lower than Spain's 52.2% penetration.
Higher.
You are incorrect. France, traditionally one of the most conservative markets in Europe when it comes to cloud-based solutions. A lot of the incumbent providers had very strong premises-based offerings. However, it is one of the fastest growing markets in terms of cloud adoption we're seeing. So providers like Enreach, Destiny, pan-European providers having a lot of success in the French market. It's one of the ones where we're forecasting the most growth. And Finbarr, when you were talking about user numbers before, if you look at the French market in terms of size, it's comparable to the UK. So we're forecasting 5 or 6 million new cloud users to be deployed in the French market over the next 5 years. So it provides into your original point about why this is important, if you're a provider looking at expanding around Europe, the French market,
yes,
very attractive.
Get the bread and wine ready. We're going to France.
Absolutely. Additionally, the one thing we should say about the French market, and I think there has always been a resistance towards English-speaking and American software firms, and that has continued to an extent and actually been exacerbated a bit this year in 2025 due to some of the messaging coming out of the US government, which we won't say any more about as we're a politically neutral podcast.
Nope, you need to parler le français.
Yeah. That is absolutely true. French speaking and French peasants. So final country on the list. I think you're still in the net positive.
I hope you've been keeping score because I have aced this test, right?
Yeah, oh yeah,
He hasn't even
I
been
think
keeping score. I think this is
I think you can't lose at the moment. A final country on the list. So France at 23.4% of users using public hosted multi-tenant cloud for business comms. I would like to know Germany higher or lower than France.
But this is the hardest one because Germany hates cloud.
It's
But
so
20%
close.
is so low. So how?
23.4 in France. I would like to know higher or lower.
It's higher, but it's not going to be that much higher. It's going to be slightly higher.
Are you sure? Are you sure? Would you like to phone a friend?
You're on the call with me. If I was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire asked this question, I would be calling you. I'm just going to go higher. I think it's slightly higher. I think it's like probably 1% higher.
Germany is just over 2% lower than France at 21.1%. So, and you know this from the contact center, the German market and German businesses generally very resistant to public tenant multi-hosted, public cloud.
Doesn't mean they're not on cloud. It's just private cloud deployed in a local data center.
Private cloud in a data center, which we don't include in our numbers because it's impossible to count. And also there's been very limited success of international providers entering either the French or the German market. If you look at the success of US providers, so the German market, the least penetrated. But again, in terms of users, we are forecasting higher growth if you look at somewhere like the UK or the Netherlands, the growth rate is in the low double digits for new cloud users. In France or Germany, it could be considerably higher. It could be 20% user growth. So millions of new users going to be deployed in those markets over the next few years. So Finbarr, I've collated your results, and you are in the net positive in terms. So you do win the quiz. And also, you're a very good sport without any preparation in a subject matter area that is not yours. And suddenly, now that we've finished the quiz, I'm concerned that this is going to come back to bite me when I get quizzed.
Oh, you have no idea, but that's okay. No, I think it's really interesting, obviously, because I'm taking it from my CCaaS perspective, what I know about these markets from that perspective, and trying to kind of deduce where things are. And I think in general, like, you can draw parallels between how developed a market is in cloud in general to how developed CCaaS is and UCaaS. So I think I wasn't without a footing. It's more just, is one higher than the other one comparatively is a bit different. But the things I think I want to focus on based on what you've been explaining is it seems that there are a few major factors that indicate that penetration of cloud. And you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. One of the first ones is obviously the availability of connectivity across the country, because even if, and I know a lot of vendors have invested in providing good quality UCaaS cloud comms experiences on low bandwidth, right? But I think it's just the perception of, I'm a business in an area without good connectivity, I can't rely on cloud in that way, right? Even if mobile UC works and even if collaboration works, if there's bad connection, I'm not going to think that it's available to me, even if it is. And I think the other thing that you said that resonated quite a lot is that a lot of the time it's not even necessarily about whether the technology is good or bad. It's about what the provider, the incumbent in that market, is actually doing.
Completely right.
And if the incumbent is offering competitive packages, talking about how great this solution is and getting people on board, then the solution is going to flourish. And if they're not, then people don't know that it exists or it's an option. They stick with what they know and what they trust.
Absolutely spot on. First of all, you're absolutely right. Connectivity provision is the primary enabler for this. I think that will change globally as well with the improvement in SAP. But I mean, if you look at the emerging markets that we cover on the CCaaS side or the UCaaS market, if you look at African markets, APAC markets, connectivity is going to be a real inhibitor in a lot of these emerging markets. So you're absolutely right. That is the key piece to this. And then, again, the thing that really throws it with a nuance, like Portugal, for an example, is a real outlier. It is what the incumbent providers in terms of Vodafone and formerly Telecom Portugal took to market. The same in Spain. There is real nuance in terms of the success that those providers have had. So you're right. It's absolutely a combination of those two things. And that is the same across the globe in the 190 countries that we cover. You can't look at these markets with a sort of broad brush approach. You have to speak to providers in the market to understand the different nuance. And hopefully for anyone who's listening that's interested in the many more data points, that our cloud comms market reports include on all of the markets that we talked about today. You can reach out for more information and more data on those.
Yeah, and thank you for joining us on this game show. We had fun. I hope you had fun. And as Patrick kind of says, this is an area that we focus on and specialize on. If it is something you need to learn more about, whether you're considering an investment in the space or you're thinking about expanding into a new market, you should come and talk to us, because while we have kind of tried to make this light and fun while also talking about different markets in Europe, there is a core basis of very, very deep data and insights that go far beyond what we can present to you in 30 minutes. So,
Absolutely.
Do get in touch and do talk to us about it. Otherwise, which markets surprised you? Which markets do you think should be more advanced? You might be like, wait a second, what do you mean Germany isn't advanced? Isn't it the capital? It's not the capital of Europe. Isn't it one of the biggest markets in Europe? What do you mean they're still using fax machines?
One of the most advanced AI markets.
Right.
Yeah.
I heard that Cognigy got acquired for almost $1 billion. What do you mean they don't use cloud comms?
Exactly.
Right. What surprised you? What markets are you really keen on looking at? What are your emerging markets? Where are you focusing your consideration and investment on the cloud comms front? Have a bit of a chat to us. Let us know. Otherwise, we will probably speak to you very, very soon. It's been fun.
Excellent. Thank you. And thank you, Finbarr.